Welcome to Parent Portfolio. I'm Jonathan. This is my wife, Jacqueline. We are parents to two lovely children, investors, and entrepreneurs. Today, we'll be discussing a couple of personal finance articles and share with you our insights and our thoughts and what we think about it. So let's get right into it. So the article, it'll be in the description below. It talks about 8 things that people should cut out if they truly want to be frugal. Title actually says, if you really want to achieve a frugal lifestyle with financial discipline, cut out these 8 costly habits. So let's go through just a couple of them and share what we think about them. So number 1 says, tame the impulse buying beast. I think in today's world, especially with social media, there's that old saying of keeping up with the Joneses. And so when people see their friends or their peers or even celebrities showing off these things, people are like, oh, why am I not getting it?
Or why don't I have it?
Yeah. So I think that desire that people have to kind of keep up with the quote unquote standard of living or kind of luxury status symbol, I think kind of puts people in a situation where it makes people look like they have money, but in reality, they're just actually borrowing money. What do you think about that?
Yeah, it can get people into a lot of trouble, and we've seen that. And you can watch a whole bunch of other YouTube videos or listen to other podcasts where people go in and they talk about their financial situation, and it kind of comes as a surprise. Like, I don't even know how I got here, and all of a sudden I'm drowning in debt. Well, because they couldn't resist the urge to fit in. I mean, as adults, it's kind of hard to say, like, you want to fit in, but at the end of the day, it's kind of the basics of it all. It's, well, so-and-so has that, and there's no reason why I can't have it.
I think it comes down to being really honest with your finances, right? We all make a wage. I think if everyone's just being honest, right? It's kind of funny where people put prices at a certain level, and it's almost to deter people saying, hey, people should be responsible saying, hey, I can't afford this. But the funny thing is that there's credit cards. So people can borrow and get what they want, but in reality, they can't afford it. And I think that's something where people need to be aware of, like, be honest with your finances, be honest with the money you actually make, and only really buy it if you can really afford it. I mean, we're talking about wants versus needs here. So right. You need to, obviously, needs are important. Households, shelter, food is important. But do you really need that fancy car? I mean, do you really need to keep up with clothing trends?
I think if you actually look at the title again of this article, how to achieve a frugal lifestyle. I don't know if cutting out impulses is necessarily a way to achieve a frugal lifestyle. It might just be maybe to be more responsible financially.
Yeah. Let's move on. Number 2, it says, dial back the dining out. And this kind of goes back to the impulse buying. We have a budget, right? We set aside money every month to say, hey, this is our dining out food. And so we don't feel guilty, right? It's actually fun money. But when we reach that limit, we're kind of like, okay.
What do we have in the house?
Exactly. We go grocery shopping and make use of what we already have. I mean, we're not against eating out. I mean, just over the weekend, we bought some food, and that's fine. That's great. But there are some people that eat out almost every day. I mean, with DoorDash and accessibility of delivery food, I mean, it can get crazy.
Yeah.
Right? So for those who are looking to be truly frugal, right? We talk about, not just saving money, but also not letting things go to waste. I mean, you go to grocery shopping, right? Take that food home, use the food you have, right? And then if you gotta go shopping again, then you buy food. But really put a hold on, the eating out, take control of that.
So what would you say if someone were to say, well, I don't have time, and time is money. I don't have time to make food or go to the grocery store. That's why I order the food to be delivered to me. It costs more. I know that, but time is money, and I just don't have the time.
So I can hear that, right? Like going to the office, like wake up, it's like, oh, I'll just spend money, right? I'll go to the cafeteria at work and order the food, and you know what? That food's kind of tasty, but oh man, the price.
Once in a while, I think it adds up.
Yeah.
Right? Life happens. If your kids were sick the night before, you might not have time to, make a meal or prepare lunches. Like, things happen, right? But I can't remember the saying word for word, but if it's important to you, you'll find a way.
Exactly.
If it's not important to you, then you'll find excuses, right?
Yeah.
And so if being financially responsible is important to you, then you will find ways to take care of your money and to not be wasteful, or another word for not being wasteful is to be frugal with your money.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Let's move on. So number 3 here, it says slash the subscription bloat. I mean, technology now with streaming services, audio, listening to books, watching movies on demand. I mean, we're in an age now where our kids are like, Dad, what are these things? Oh, son, those are commercials. We watch TV and then we wait, but nowadays it's just so readily available. And especially movies, people can actually watch movies at home. But here's the thing, they've really gained this, the industry has really gained the system where if you want to watch something in particular, you kind of have to sign up for this subscription, that subscription, and man, they add up. I mean, how do we manage that kind of stuff?
I think we limit it to what we actually use in our household. We do take advantage of free trials, especially if it's a show that we've been following on the internet but haven't actually watched, and then that service comes up with like a free month or a free 6-month trial. Then it's like, okay, I'm gonna watch that show within this free trial. But it's a discipline.
Yeah.
It's learning how to cut the cord,
Yeah.
and say goodbye to the subscription, especially when, if you're trying to do more with your finances, then maybe we shouldn't be sitting in front of the TV for hours on end after our work. If we're trying to do a side hustle, then maybe we should be working on that instead.
There was a movie that I wanted to watch, and I went to our subscription streaming services. I said, okay, it's not there. It's not there. And I went to the point of like, okay, where can I find it? And maybe just try a free trial. But I had no luck. The funny thing is that we went to the library, and I asked you, I said, hey, libraries, not many people know this, but they allow you to borrow DVDs. Video games. We just found that out recently. And so I said, can we go check? And oh my gosh, it was there. And if you have a DVD player, we still have
an old PS3.
PS3, yeah. And we popped in over the weekend, and that saved us money and just the stress of just trying to find out, all right, managing a new subscription that we might just let lapse.
Yeah.
And then like, oh, I forgot. Okay, one more month, right? And that's where they kind of get you now. Like the business model is more of subscription-based model where you just kind of pay unknowingly.
Well, in today's age, you're also not dealing with digital subscriptions, but you've also got your box subscriptions, your toy subscriptions for kids. I've seen it. You have clothing subscriptions. So there's a lot there where it's kind of really hone in on what your values are and really be picky on what gets to be on your subscription list. Like, do they make the cut? Are they really that important?
So there are a couple, we talked about 8 on this list, but I'm just kind of going through a couple of ones that I think kind of speak to us here. And one of the last ones here is number 8 here. It says, keep up with key maintenance. And I like this one because when we talk about being frugal, reusing what we have, when it comes to like cars, for example, if we need a new car, I always sway against buying a new one. I prefer used. And the way that I kind of make it last a longer is staying up with the maintenance. And I think that how you take care of your stuff is kind of like one of the basic principles of being frugal, right?
Right.
Make it last. Aside from the car, right, we have a furnace, right? With the snow, or sometimes in the spring, we sign up for regular maintenance so that we know that it'll work, versus, you know, not changing out the filter or not taking care of it, that one day it's gonna break and then cost us thousands of dollars, versus
Right.
just
We pay maybe a couple $100s for the furnace to get checked. And sure enough, there's a little things here and there that need to be tweaked, or we learn something new about it just with the aging of the house and the things that came with the house. These are normal things, but we try to get ahead of it by having someone take a look and say, okay, well, it's at year 10 now, so what do we need to do? Same thing with the cars. I mean, I did buy my car brand new, but I was 22, and it's almost 20 years old.
it has 100,000 miles on it, by the way.
It has 120 something miles on it, actually. But we also live in a place where I don't have to drive very far. So I did keep up with the maintenance on that car, and it has lasted. There have been a couple of big fixes that needed to be done to it. I think the last one was like $3,000, and that was a big ticket item. And I got a lot of flack. People were like, why don't you just use that money to put down a down payment on a new car? And I thought about it, and I was like, well, $3,000 isn't going to make that big of a dent for a down payment, and then I'm going to have to get a new car payment on top of that. So then that's another couple $100s every single month that I didn't have to pay for. So I forked up the $3,000 because we have a car maintenance fund.
Yeah.
And so it wasn't a big hit. I mean, it was nice to see that little chunk of change in our bank accounts, but I mean, it served its purpose.
Yeah,
That's why it was there.
I think what's nice is that both of our cars have no debt. I mean,
Yeah.
they're paid off. They have over 100,000 miles, both of them, and we may have big ticket items. Like I think a couple years ago, had to replace the air compressor of my AC. That was a scary $1,500. But the months before that and the months before, I had zero car payment.
Right.
I mean, it sounds scary, but in the long run, especially saving all the interests, I mean, it worked out. So
I mean, it just goes back to trying our best to be financially responsible. We know the car is going to need fixing. We know that the tire is going to go flat eventually. We know, something's going to happen. A rock is going to hit the windshield, which a rock has hit the windshield, and we've had to replace that on one of our cars. And so, slowly adding a little bit every single month. Even when I was right out of school, the car was already paid off, but once I got a regular paycheck, I started setting aside a small amount every single month for that day when something will be needed for the car. And sure enough, it got used. So
overall speaking, from our perspective, especially as a frugal couple, we always promote living within your means, budget. People don't like budgeting, but I think budgeting allows you to enjoy your money without going over, and also take good care of what you own. Try to make it last as long as possible. Do you think I'm missing anything?
I don't think so. I think you pretty much got it all.
So that is our episode for today. If you have any special frugal tips that you enjoy, please comment below. Thanks again for your time. We'll see you next time.